This law? Well, let's think about it. What period are we in? The patriarchal law. You're talking about the law of Moses, right? Moses, has he been born yet? Are you talking about the moral law? Okay, yes, I would agree. The moral law was in effect. Well, you're right. He was listening all that time. He definitely was. But the problem is that the only thing that he's comparing to is this. And he is calling them out and rebuking all of them because they are not holding up the doctrine of retribution. Because he believes that Job is 100% guilty. Now, under the moral law, is there any part of what we would say would be under the moral law that Job has broken? No. So is there any proof that Job has broken any part of the moral law? No, there's not. But if you're holding on to the doctrine of retribution and you're seeing Job in his present state, what is their mindset now? You had to do something wrong. And that is Elihu's entire speech. You have done this to yourself. You even have some of the friends, I think it was Bildad, that blamed Job, and he said, your children are dead because of you. You have Elihu who are coming right after here, and he is telling Job how ignorant he is. He's telling him how judgmental he is. He says in verse 35, do you think this is according to justice? Do you say my righteousness is more than God's? For you say, what advantage will it be to you? What profit will I have more than if I had sinned? I will answer you and your friends with you. Look at the heavens and see, and behold the clouds, they are higher than you. He said, if you have sinned, what do you accomplish against him? If your transgressions are many, what do you do to him? If you are righteous, what do you give to him? Or what does he receive from your hand? Your wickedness is for a man like yourself, and your righteousness is for a son of man. Because of the multitude of oppression, they cry out. They cry out for help because of the arm of the mighty. But no one says, where is God my maker? Well, what is Job crying? Over and over and again, he's seeking who? God. Well, Elihu comes back and he's saying, why would you cry out for God your maker? You see, Elihu's entire speech is about condemnation of Job. And everything that he holds up to Job is about the doctrine of retribution. There is nothing that we've read that is blaming him for anything else. He is trying to one up the other three friends. And this is where we're getting to, is that now God is going to speak, and he's going to set all things straight with the friends and all that they had been saying. Even in, we can pass on that one. Let me see here. So we want to make sure that we are staying consistent with the fact that Job is in a great time of suffering. Each of the speeches that are given by all four people are comparing his life and present situation with the doctrine of retribution. The only reason you're where you are is because of what you've done. And we've seen that blame over and over again. So now we get to chapter 38, and we're working our way back out of the three grand speeches. And this is where we stopped last time. So now God begins to speak in chapter 38. So in Job, as we've said, continually asked to speak with God. We find that in chapter 31, verses 35 through 37. There's several arguments of Job there. And now, his wish is granted. And what is coming is coming. So let's start reading a little bit in chapter 38. Now it says, "Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, 'Who is this that darkens counsel by the words without knowledge?'" Now, let me ask this. Who do you think God is talking about? That's right. He's talking about the four friends who have continually spouted off judgments. They have spouted off their doctrine. They have spouted off their condemnation on him. And so they are people who came and they started laying these judgments on Job when they didn't have their facts straight, right? Now we look at this and we know that Job is a righteous man. We know that he hasn't done anything. Have you ever known somebody to go on blaming and throwing all kinds of stuff around and they don't have their facts straight? Yeah. Well, that's what Job has been going through at a really terrible time. So their words have come from a limited understanding of things. Who has all understanding of things? God does. Okay. So remember, we have these listen to me passages. We have three levels of wisdom. What's the first one? Level 1, wisdom. Got it? Craftsman, that's right. So being able to work with your hand, learning a trade of some sort, that's level 1 wisdom. What's level 2 wisdom? What's level 2? You got one. What's level 2? We work with her? Huh? Well, what would that be? What? Number 3. Okay, so we got godly wisdom here. Right? So we'll put all those together. What would 2 be? Life wisdom, right? Remember Sunday I said we could look at Kevin and Landon, listen to whole others. I said they're way older than me. They could give me lots of knowledge. It's life wisdom. Life wisdom. That's level 2. That's why Titus 2 is so important. For the older to teach the younger. All right? So, God is the only person who has actual knowledge about what's going on in this situation. Nobody else does. The big problem is that we have 4 people who think they do when they don't. Is there any proof that he led himself to where he's at? Job, I mean. No, there's no proof. There's no proof of him doing any wrongdoing. He hasn't hurt anybody. He hasn't lied to anybody. Everything prior to this happening, he was helping everybody and their dogs, right? He was a good person. So now they've taken this situation and they look at him and their perception is, you are what you are because of what you've done in the past. You're on the ground scraping your wounds because you're a bad person. That's doctrine of retribution. The doctrine of retribution is built on perception and not fact. And we as people, even today, are horrible about looking at a person and judging their situation when we don't have a clue. So this is where God's wisdom is so important. I don't know everything. They don't know everything. The best thing to do is shut your mouth. And that's what God's fixing to say. So then the Lord answered Job at a whirlwind, who is this that darkens counsel by the words without knowledge? That's the friends. Now gird up your loins like a man, and I will ask you, and you will instruct me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? What do you think God's trying to establish here? Huh? Yeah, you were nowhere to be found. In other words, I didn't need you then. I certainly don't need you now. Tell me, if you have understanding, who sets its measurements? Since you know, or who stretched the line on it? On what were its bases sunk? On who laid its cornerstones? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy, or who enclosed the sea with doors? When bursting forth, it went out from the womb. When I made a cloud, its garments in thick darkness and its swaddling band, and I placed boundaries on it, and set a bolt and doors. And I said, thus far you shall come, but no farther, and here shall be your proud wave. Stop. Have you ever in your life commanded the morning and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It is changed like clay under the seal, and they stand forth like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and the uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you, or have you seen the gates of the deep darkness? Have you understood the expanse of the earth? Tell me if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling of light and darkness? Where is its place? That you may take it to its territory, and that you may discern the paths to its home. You know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of snow, or have you seen the storehouses of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of distress, for the day of war and battle? Where is the way that the light is divided, or the east wind scattered on the earth? Who has cleft a channel for the flood, or a way for the thunderbolt, to bring rain on the land and the people, on a desert without man in it, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to make the seeds of grass to sprout? Has the rain a father, or who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb has come the ice, and the frost of heaven who has given birth? Water becomes hard like stone, and the surface of the deep is imprisoned. Can you bind the chains of Pleiades, or loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth the constellation in its season, and guide the bear in her satellites? Do you know the ordinance of the heaven, and fix their rule over the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, so that the abundance of water will cover you? Can you send forth lightnings, that they may go and say to you, here we are? Who has put wisdom in the innermost being, or given understanding to the mind? Who can count the clouds by wisdom, or tip the water jars of the heaven? When the dust hardens into the mass and the clods stick together, can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of young lions when they crouch in their dens and lie and wait in their lair? Who prepares the raven its nourishment when its young cry to God and wander about with food? How many questions are in chapter 38? A lot. And what are they geared toward? You think you know so much. God says you know nothing. Nothing. But here we have Zophar, Bildad, Elihu, and Eliphaz. And what do they think they know? They think they know it all. So from verse 4 down through verse 38, God is demonstrating his power over, in verses 4 through 7, the earth. In verse 8 through 7, he demonstrates his power over the sea. At 12 through 15, he demonstrates his power over the morning. In 16 through 18, he demonstrates his power over the underworld. In 19 through 21, he demonstrates his power over light. 22 through 30, he demonstrates his power over the storms. And 31 through 33, he demonstrates his power over the heavens. And in 34 through 38, he demonstrates his power over the clouds. So, as he discusses the clouds, God states that he put wisdom in man in chapter 38 and verse 36. So anything that man knows, he knows why. Because God has put it in him. We have nothing. And the more that you get in the text, the more humbled that we should all be. Because without God, we are literally nothing. Our bodies are made from what? Dust. From dust you came, and from dust you will return. Your things that you have, again, they're made from the earth. Your soul was created by who? Life is given by what? God breathed into man in his nostrils the breath of what? Life. God sustains everything. But yet we get in a state of pride that says, I know it all. And God says, where were you when I did this? You were nowhere. This is really a state of humbling them. And so we'll dig back in here in 38. We'll break it down a little bit more, and we'll start making our way. Probably we'll try to get in about halfway through 41, finish out the book here in a couple weeks. So thank you very much.